I went 6-7 in my first year as an offensive coordinator at New Mexico, so this season I was trying to finish with an even better record because I wanted to get a job coaching an offense at a big school or as a head coach. By the end of the season, I'd find out if I could do that, but for now, I had to focus on my current team because we were projected to have a rough year, and we opened up the season at North Texas. They offered me an offensive coordinator job months ago, but I decided to stick with junior quarterback CJ Montez at New Mexico, and I was hoping by the end of the day, I'd be happy with that choice. I redesigned my offense in the offseason so it would fit the type of players that I was working with, and so far, it was going pretty well, with Jace Taylor making an incredible end zone grab. It was a tie game at the half, but after CJ Montez got hurt in the third quarter, I had to put in backup quarterback Isaiah Chavez, who ended up playing really well, dropping bombs to Austin Erickson like it was nothing. In the fourth quarter, it was a tie game, so I started calling more run plays for junior Nathaniel Jones, and I was confident that he could get us the win. With the clock running out, he put us in the field position we needed to kick the game winner, and I coached just well enough on offense for the backup quarterback to get us the win. I had to coach against North Dakota State the next week, and even though they were an FCS school, I was a little nervous. The Bison were the best in their class, but after this filthy spin move from Nathaniel Jones, he would take the run all the way down the field before getting stopped just short of reaching the end zone. Fortunately, I called a great play just seconds later, and my offense was off to a good start. I ended up realizing that I had no reason to be nervous, because by the end of the first half, we had scored 31 points, and I was so proud of my offensive play calling throughout the game. I expected the success to continue at Old Dominion, and CJ Montez made sure he didn't disappoint me. I still needed to coach some better pass protection at practice, but until then, CJ Montez would escape the pressure and run it in himself. We took the lead with 15 seconds left in the half, and we would never look back from there, opening the third quarter with a 43-yard dot from CJ Montez to Austin Erickson, and continuing that dominance throughout the rest of the game. CJ Montez was playing amazing in my system, putting up 48 points on the Monarchs, and I was eyeing a lot of potential head coach openings. The following week, I had to coach at Washington in the rain, and we couldn't move the ball in the downpour. Obviously, I was expecting my offense to struggle in the rain, but I wasn't expecting us to struggle to get on the board. CJ Montez wasn't on target today either, missing wide open receivers for no reason, and by the fourth quarter, we hadn't scored. So I started calling only run plays, and even though we ended up losing, I was happy that I finally got us into the end zone a couple of times, especially because my offense was ranked as the best in the conference. I opened up conference play coaching against San Diego State at home, and this halfback toss on third down was a bad play call by me, so we tied the game at 3 instead. CJ Montez was struggling to make the right read throughout the game, but I kept making him throw the ball until he got over the mental hump, and we went into the half up 3. By the fourth quarter, we maintained that lead, but once again, we were without our star quarterback. So I had to call almost all run plays, and Nathaniel Jones did everything I asked him to, sealing the game for us, which put us at 4-1 on the year. I understood my offense scoring 6 points is bad, but in the end, a win's a win. I got to coach at Allegiant Stadium, and it was massive. I think it made my quarterback nervous because he threw this goal line interception, but just like last week, I kept calling passing plays to make CJ Montez comfortable, and that's when he delivered this 47-yard bomb to senior Bobby Wooden. Later on, he'd find his tight end in the end zone, and then Nathaniel Jones would get wide open, so he hit him in stride to put us up 14 on the Rebels. All was well with my offense playing better than ever, but then, after backup running back Sherrod White got so close to getting into the end zone, I saw CJ Montez was holding his knee. For the third time this year, he was out for the game, but at least we already had a good lead, so even though UNLV ended up coming pretty close to catching back up to us, we would come out with a win, and we would stay on top of our conference. I called the perfect play to start our game against Colorado State, and midway through the first quarter, I watched junior wide receiver Luke Wyson completely cook a defender and take it 36 yards to the house. Because I turned around this offense, I was excited to see what job offers I had at the end of the year, but first, we had to finish business against the Rams, and I almost pulled Austin Erickson from the game when he dropped this wide open catch, which would have been a touchdown. He's lucky that we weren't in a close battle today, because if we were, I would have made him regret that drop. CJ Montez had another incredible performance, and we had our first snow battle of the season. I was freezing on the sideline because I wasn't expecting a snowstorm in November, but that didn't stop me from calling the best passing plays in the conference. By studying film, I figured out that nobody on Boise State marked the running back out of the backfield, so I made sure we abused it until they figured out how to stop it. I would consider myself an offensive genius if I had to give myself a title, but at the end of the day, I could just be an average offensive coordinator. I was fortunate to have a quarterback with an arm like CJ Montez as he continued to put the ball exactly where it should be, and he was single-handedly going to land me a much better job at the end of the year. This throw to Austin Erickson was beautiful, and even if he didn't finish out the play, we were thriving, and Luke Wyson would make this catch seconds later. I continued to make my offense rail Boise State, and we gave it to them super well. 49 points in the snow was unheard of, with my offense cementing itself as practically unstoppable. At this point, a head coach job might be possible, but I still needed to get through the year, and I was happy with how we started this game. The Air Force defense wasn't able to stop my offensive plays, and even though CJ Montez would get hurt on this one, I coached the backup well enough to take over just as well. Or so I thought. Chavez turned it over a lot, and when it was a one-possession game, he threw the game away by not holding on to the ball. So we had about a minute to get down the field and get in our kicker's range, but that got me thinking about another type of range as well. Most people don't know that in over 30 states, you can play Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. I enjoy playing it because you just get to predict if your favorite athletes will go higher or lower on a certain stat line, and if you can correctly predict these outcomes, you can make some easy money. So if you want to support the channel and get some free cash to play around with, Underdog is doubling your first deposit up to $100 if you use code Bordeaux or the first link in my description. Now, it's time to see what happened at the end of the Air Force game. And without Sherrod White coming in, stepping up big time, and making plays as he did here, where he took it 28 yards to put us in the right position, I'm not sure we would have won this game. But after improving to 8-1, I was coaching in the game of the season. Both teams were undefeated in conference play, and the winner would make the conference championship, but CJ Montez started off the game terribly, so to make sure he redeemed himself, I called a play where he needed to hit the slot receiver over the top, and after he did that, he got his confidence back as he got us into the end zone. But on the next possession, he lost the ball right on the goal line, so obviously I chewed him out, and you'd think he'd hold on to the ball after that, but he fumbled again, and I didn't know what to do. My star quarterback was broken, so I made him block while we ran Wildcat for the whole possession, which got us a 3-point lead at the half. I decided to let him redeem himself in the third quarter, and he ended up setting a school record. Maybe I was a little harsh on him sometimes, but it clearly made an impact on how we played, and then at the end of the game, after our tight end dropped a tutty, CJ Montez got his normal out for the day injury. This was becoming a normal occurrence, but fortunately it was already over with us having the ball and a 10-point lead. The conference was all ours, and all we had to do was keep winning. I wasn't going to let us lose at home to Fresno State, as I called one of the best plays at the beginning of the game. They were 2-8 this season, so I had to make sure my offense looked amazing if I wanted any good coaching offers in a few weeks. If any schools were looking at me, they'd realize that CJ Montez and I were a package deal, and I wanted to take him with me wherever I went because even when he threw interceptions, sometimes we scored out of it. By the fourth quarter, Fresno State had crawled back into the game, and with about a minute left, we had to get into field goal range, which would not be the easiest thing to do in the rain. I didn't want us to attempt to throw anything deep with how slippery the ball was, so I called plays that moved us down the field in a completely different way, and it managed to work out in the end. This was our 10th win of the year, and I was so proud of this team. I ended up coaching this offense into the top 25, all for us to start against Wyoming like this. So I was relieved to see CJ Montez got us into the end zone on the following drive. However, he was still struggling throughout the game with fumbles like this one. Obviously, he was unlike any quarterback I'd ever coached before, so I gave him a lot more leeway than I normally would with someone, but I think that's what made us so successful. Unfortunately, he started the fourth quarter with this interception, and Wyoming was making us work incredibly hard to finish conference play undefeated. With 2.5 minutes left in the game, sophomore wide receiver Jamar Sanders would take this simple pass all the way around the Wyoming defense and into the end zone. But it was called back just seconds later, which actually helped us because we ran down the clock and kicked the game winner. We finished the regular season 11-1, and I was coaching in the Mountain West Conference Championship game against San Diego State. We honestly didn't start it off in the best of ways, with the Aztecs having a 4-point lead, and by the end of the first half, we hadn't gotten into the end zone. However, in the third quarter, CJ Montez didn't go with the play I called, and I couldn't even get mad at him because it worked. so I kind of just let him take over and do whatever he wanted to for the rest of the game. And surprisingly, it went well, with the junior quarterback placing the ball perfectly wherever he wanted to on the field. So with 3.5 minutes left, we finally took a lead on San Diego State as CJ Montez hooked up with Jamar Sanders. And a couple minutes later, I called a play where we went with an aggressive deep shot to Austin Erickson to end any hope the Aztecs had. That was what it took to win the Mountain West Championship, and I had coached this offense to the top. Our bowl game was against the Utes, so before I got to see what coaching jobs I could potentially take, I had to watch my offense get railed by Utah. I was pretty upset we got matched up against a 99 overall team in our bowl game, but I couldn't let that take away from the amazing season we had just put on, so that's why this is the last highlight from this game. We obviously weren't the better team, but I was glad I could finally choose a new school, and even though New Mexico begged me to come back, I wanted to see who wanted me, and that's when I saw my golden opportunity. Alabama offered me an offensive coordinator job, and I signed it within seconds. I was really going to be coaching alongside the GOAT.